Hi. So now we're going to talk about the competitive landscape, which is covered in chapter 1 as an overview. And again, these slides are so full of words, but in this new book, so I'm just going to talk about my viewpoint of these issues. So the fundamental nature of competition is changing. Why? What's what is forcing us to change? We will talk about digitalization and the process of converting things, because you've experienced how many more things are happening digitally than they were 5 years ago. COVID has dramatically impacted how companies and leaders have to think about their competitive advantage. Scale is different. The opportunity for how we spend our money is different with a change in how people look at ads, receive their information, receive the news, see advertising. So the idea of digital impact on organizations is broad and it's deep. And so just a few things that we have to think about always when we're thinking about the whole organization is how nimble are we? How fast are we? How innovative are we? It is very unlikely that a lot of companies will succeed by staying who they were and not changing. You saw that during COVID. We saw people that made fast shifts, restaurants who shifted overnight on that first day to providing pickups, to go orders when they didn't before. And companies that closed their doors and waited it out and maybe aren't around anymore. So we see this huge variety of the way that organizations interact to changes and the need to keep up with that. Hyper competition is a word that you're going to see in this course, and that really refers to intense competition in very specific areas where it's difficult for other people to come into that marketplace. We'll talk more about that in more depth in the competitive sections that we talk about, but just know the word hyper competition is when it's really intense rivalry and it's the entry barriers are low, meaning it's difficult for people to come into that market. And that's because we have such a global and technological world that we're in, that it's easier to compete at this really intense, quickly changing way. And we see more and more competition focused on the ideas of price and knowledge and first movers, because technology provides us so much access to information so quickly. We can compare on our own as consumers faster, better than we used to. We can get more information. We can get feedback on what other customers think about this product or this company, etc. It's just a very different world than it was a few years ago. We'll also talk about the global economy and how we move goods and services, people across geographic borders. You'll have some cases on looking at how do organizations compete. And there are different strategies to compete in a multinational or an international basis, and we'll go into more depth there. But firms have to study that global economy carefully, just as a foundation to learn how to position themselves and be competitive. Tariffs, which are taxes imposed by government on goods imported into their country, are an important element of global reach, and that can be used politically as a weapon or an opportunity to gain access. So that globalization is not always attractive for an organization, and they have to look at what the opportunities are and what the risks are. not only externally and where the customers are and what the opportunity is, but how are they suited internally for the ability to meet a global reach and provide their products or service through a global supply chain, which is much more complicated than just in one nation. However, we see a lot of competition that provides advantages through this idea that we have a broader global reach. Employees are a key source. We hired lots of IT folks from Indian countries that were had a different culture, they had a different education. It provided, and it just provided a competitive advantage for us at one time. We and I'm referring to one time being the organization I was at. An entry into another country takes a real strategic management process. There's a case I used to use for IKEA, and when IKEA went into, oh boy, I think it's Pakistan. That's gonna be wrong. Oh, darn it. They were very unaware of the culture of the organization. And so as just a really quick story, IKEA is an organization where you put, customer puts the product together, they deliver it home, we go pick it up, unassembled, and we bring it home. In certain cultures, we don't do that. We don't have vehicles that big. We don't have we don't buy things that are the same as everyone else. We are personalized in our homes and our culture. We don't have toolboxes where we put things together. And so all of that was overlooked by IKEA when they went into one country, and it was a huge detriment for them. So hopefully that made sense. That's just a story that I will always remember around large organizations that still fail to acknowledge the situation around them. Technology is obviously impactful in organizations, and information technology and careers in that will continue to grow. We know now with the opportunity and ease at which we use artificial intelligence today that it's just exponentially changes our opportunities, and we have to stay on top of that, or we will just, I like the term perpetual innovation, that we have to always be ready to replace what we've just purchased and acquired and built with what's new. Disruptive technologies are just technologies that really come into an industry, and it can harm industry incumbents who provided their wares, if you will, a certain way. And so disruptive technology is just really radical technology that creates almost a new industry. So we can look all the way back to the beginnings of Amazon when they were a bookseller, which is their, if you didn't know that, that's how they started as an online bookseller, and they really disrupted the marketplace in the idea of we go to a bookstore and we purchase books, and that technology disrupted and forever changed the culture or the industry of book buying. So knowledge and big data, we're not going to talk a lot in this course about it, but it's an important part of all of the things that we do. And knowledge is important because knowledge is the idea of not only information and data, but it's the intelligence and the expertise and our experience of what we do with that data. So labor and people that have a good connection to what information exists, what data we know, and then how to convert that and apply that in a way that helps them change, whether it's labor or their processes or their systems or their delivery, their supply chain, on and on. Those are really, it's an important thing to realize that is applying knowledge to that data and what we do with it will change how we flow that knowledge to within organizations, within industries, but also within customer bases. And we know now how many things are available, like it talks about here, low cost data and cloud technology. You all have that on your phone, and you pay very little to nothing for all of this storage by giving someone else access to that data to create, their own value around whatever it is that they're collecting. Flexibility is really important today. I'm just going to kind of close it at that. And social responsibility and CSR is, we'll have one chapter on governance, which talks about how do we treat our people? How do we look at the world as far as, are we providing inclusive situations for how we produce and how we treat our employees, but also how do we deliver our goods and services, quality, safety, environmental impact, legalities and philanthropic activities that we offer to employees or customers, all play a part in the strategic plan of an organization. And then the idea around sustainability is embraced really as a society. We embrace that as this underlying corporate social responsibility, and the idea that investors expect sustainable outcomes and expect sustainable solutions, and that can show up in every area of an organization. Okay, so I'm going to stop there, and then we're going to come back and talk about above average returns.